It is, but there's no reason we have to replicate stupidity. So anyways, that's, we will be meeting with you guys and working with you guys because we have so much overlap in interest. I haven't actually gone out to tour the plants and worked with the actual municipal part. So I'm trying to work with the government part to do that statewide.
Well, we kind of need you to see them as part of the orientation of new trustees. Everybody, that resolution, everybody needs to see everything. So please, when their dates come up again, I've been up there twice.
Yeah, no,
So please, I think to see it would be really beneficial.
I've spent many years looking at it.
Now, I still would rather you see it.
I didn't want to see what it looks like now.
Well, it looks good.
I know, I think
It's good,
Phil
yeah.
says you got it's better than I
It
think.
looks so good you wouldn't recognize it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Lots
Just a little elbow grease.
Yeah. It looks good, and I just think it'd be important for.
No, I will.
Yeah,
We'll get
that'd be
around
great.
it. That's
Thank
part
you.
of my.
Thank you. I think that's important.
We're in budget mode right now.
So the other thing I wanted to bring up is that the committee, these two gentlemen met last, whenever that was, July 14th.
With
And
us.
yes, you two met with Jeremiah and Jordan, right? And came up with these 5 priorities, which to me is refreshing.
Did you get Jeremiah's status report?
I have it right here.
Okay, because it just appeared at
Yep.
1:48 today.
Right.
Excellent job, dude.
Put that on the record. Last
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it in time. Yeah.
And for anybody who doesn't know, Jeremiah emailed myself,
I hadn't seen it.
and he emailed both
You're on
of
there.
you.
You're on
Oh, is
there.
it on there?
It's a 13-page master list of needs and to-dos.
I wouldn't call it a master list.
Well,
It's like we're gonna keep adding.
master list of needs. That's how you titled it. Would you like it to be a list of needs?
Probably.
Okay.
This
So,
is gonna be more.
It's just not finished project. It'll be forever.
so I printed out a copy for myself, but I don't have copies for everybody else because it's 13 pages.
Basically,
But-
we started with these, and Jeremiah wrote up a more comprehensive
Awesome.
report, including some funding. One question on your report: does Mary ever talk to you, Mayor Mary?
We had one meeting.
Because she stopped me on the trail when I was mountain biking, and she walks a lot on the trail I bike, and she wanted to know costing on the PRVs, and I thought, well, why are you asking me? You should ask you. So did she ever approach you about costing on the PRVs?
Yeah.
We started the conversation, and then we talked with Travis and found out that like at least half of the PRVs had recently been rebuilt, like the diaphragms and the pilot valve systems. So then we were able to just shorten the list, and so that I'd say that number is fairly accurate.
It's
Yeah,
on
that's-
page 5.
And that's what we're gonna, is there enough of a fudge factor in there?
Did I add the
grant?
20%?
You did, you got a 20%.
And so what I didn't add is our wages to, because we can do most of that stuff in house. We can pretty much do all
I
that stuff
know.
in house.
Staff on the personnel part before we submit it for a grant.
I don't think we will.
Yeah, and
I don't
Dana
think so.
Suggested not doing that also.
Oh, it's just because the grant will be more capital oriented and can't cover personnel?
Well, I think it's that we have the money to do this.
Yeah.
Because if it really.
Oh, because
needs
Mary asked,
30,
wanted
40.
the number for a grant.
Well, that's because we were under the impression it might be 100 and some thousand.
And then yesterday, we converged with Dana, and Dana just said, you know, get the state revolving fund money for like the 2 million gallon rehab project, and try to do like things like the PRV in house.
Okay, cool.
So that's, and Mary didn't know that at the time.
Correct.
Now, but now you put it all in one place, in one document and dated today.
And so your 1 million gallon plant, it looks like a lot of work, but not a lot of money. Is that true?
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Okay.
So is that all in here? Okay.
Yeah,
I haven't had a chance to read it.
I read it real fast. I need to go back over it in detail.
I'm just curious if we could, like, I see D on your agenda as like other topics for discussion. I just want to add one.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's Scott Thomas was
Yes.
really suggesting that we reach out to USDA Rural Development, because we can lump all of our projects into a funding request, and basically they'll give us a loan for what we can afford
was actually involved, Pickton Mason did that, and they had about a $2 million CapEx budget over there, and they ended up, getting about 60% of that as grant, and the other 40% as the long-term loan.
At 1.5% or something like that.
The only thing that Pickton, we got into trouble over there is that you're into the federal government oversight regulations, and when they're actually doing the work, you gotta have a certified PE on the job at $150 an hour, looking at every fitting and then writing a report. So the downside of those grants is oversight administration costs. And at Pickton, that ate up almost 20% of the budget. So just be mindful that it sounds like free money, but there's a lot involved. But I think it'd be a great choice for big projects. They traditionally don't like to do projects under $1 million. So
He was saying like aggregate the projects
Yeah.
to make it look like
We can
a
easily
project.
get over $1 million.
Yeah, totally. And then we'd have to implement within 5 years. So we have to spend it all in 5 years. So we have to
That's a
have
nice thing.
the capacity to execute.
Yeah.
And let me just add a little bit of information. Is an RFP that's gonna go out soon to find an engineer, to have it on a town engineer?
Oh, I don't know. I thought there was an RFQ and then,
I mean, it's RFQ. It's an
Yeah.
RFQ, and
then there would be a discretionary budget for engineering services.
right, but we get bids instead of it just going to SGM, which we all trustees are a little concerned about sole sourcing that. So that is supposed to go out soon. So meaning that we would have an engineer that has been hired to work for the town of Paonia on specific projects.
It'd be nice to have one local. You got my list of local attorneys?
Yeah.
Okay. Same kind of thing, if we can find a local engineer rather than one.
Well, I'm not sure where the RFQ goes. I do not know where Corinne's gonna post it, and it's not ready for posting apparently. I reviewed it for her and just gave her some comments, and she had to get a couple things answered.
One of the troubles about just throwing the fishing line out in the water and hoping the bobber bobs is that it's better to be proactive than actually start. It's like
Well,
attorneys to just say
Yeah,
that.
and I'm saying, I don't know what Corinne's
What
gonna
to
do,
do.
but we will have to
We may
ask
have
her.
to
It's
actually
her-
chase it down and do it
Yeah,
somewhere.
and I think it's good to say, well, why don't you make sure you send it to here and here, but, that's her bailiwick, and we need to, maybe if you have spaces, because I agree, I think the more people that see it, I just don't know where that kind of RFQ is advertised, but it's in the queue.
I've got one comment. I think you need to be a little careful about engineering hopping, and we've done that in this town. We've had JD Hydro, and there's been a lot of overlap in the SGM stuff, and the JDS Hydro was chosen for the DOLA grant, as I understand. But it's real important to have some engineer that has some history of the culture of what's going on.
Yeah.
In my opinion, we've had all the major engineering studies that we need to do. We just need to execute.
Yeah.
And what we really need to do is work on the grant side of funding.
Yeah, but there are some things you have to have an engineer for.
And this is just a general
It's
engineer,
just to
it's
have
not
an
gonna be
engineer.
a water-specific
No.
engineer.
Okay, also,
General
Yeah.
engineer.
just.
And that's just like Joanne Fagan's the engineer for Hotchkiss.
Right.
We used to have her, but
She's too busy to
we
do
managed
two.
to piss her off.
Oh, so she not coming back.
Like, I mean,
We're good at some things.
The other thing the town engineer can do is be a project manager, because each one,
Yeah,
if we
right.
get into a DOLA grant, you're gonna need a dedicated PE
Yeah.
project manager.
And that would give just
And
a
that would
stamp.
give us a stamp.
And you could put that into the grant. If you knew who you had and what they charge, you could put that into the grant writing. And hopefully if they pay for that. So anyway, I just wanna let you know that's in the queue. I don't know the status of it right now, but it's happening in terms of engineering. Do you wanna go through these 1 through 5? And
They're
have-
all in that list.
Well, see, the audience doesn't know any of this, so I just want the audience to understand that there is this 13-page document that I don't see any reason why it can't be shared with
I'm not sharing it every day.
everybody.
Yeah.
It is or isn't? Well, I think it's pretty doggone nice to have it all in one place. My God, I was like, oh my God, that's great. So, and I only got it from Jeremiah and Thomas. Oh, Thomas got it too. Okay.
Dave, do you have?
And me.
No.
No, and then I forwarded it to you, I think. I forwarded it to Thomas.
Came directly.
Oh, did you get it from Jeremiah?
I think Dave and Corinne first, and then.
Okay.
And then us.
Well, you're getting a second from me then. I forwarded it. But, so, here's my thing. I do not want to be on the AWC any longer. I would rather put my time on finance and personnel and with hiring the administrator. So I would like to just cry uncle and or aunt, whichever you be, and we can talk about it at the next trustee meeting. But you know, I've been taking a lot of time to put together notes and track things down, and I just can't keep it up.
Right.
So I'll just throw that out there.
Thomas, are you thinking about coming to these meetings fairly regularly?
I used to. If I mean, we can do rock paper scissors for it if you want. But I mean, it's really.
No, I'm talking about both of us. If we're both, and that way we can just tag team it instead of having this sort of official structure.
Sure. Yeah.
And either some meetings will both be there, some meetings only one of us will be there because of scheduling conflicts.
Sure.
Are you cool with that?
Yeah. I think that we should check the ordinance.
Yeah, the
'cause
ordinance is pretty
I think there's a call for a trustee to be like a trustee to be on there. So one of us should be like a person.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you have to come to any meeting. You know. Yeah.
Right.
We just have like like let's make it you, and then we can both come to meetings whenever we can.
Okay, that sounds good. And that way,
You're sitting there with your name on the thing, so you may as well be the guy now.
yeah, you can blame him for that.
Right.
I was impersonating him for a while.
So I don't want to be accused of
Fix
this
it.
behavior.
Right.
So, for sure, that sounds good.
Okay.
I run these a little looser than Paige does. Paige is more formal, and I'm more small town. So, I just am. That's my nature. I notice you're more organized.
Well,
I just
yeah, I'm an
fly.
We
OCD,
started with
I'm
Robert's
OCD
rules.
Scorpio.
The first year we did Robert's rules, we were doing motions
Yes.
and like the, you know, like
Yeah.
calling on speakers and everything. It was,
Yeah.
it was like gross. It was bad.
I'm just trying to keep a record. So,
Right, and we report out in the water committee, and it probably, we do have a report out to the whole board from the AWC, right?
I didn't put anything in the agenda, but I
But
talk
do-
about
But
it.
it's not, so, because last time around, I folded the water committee meeting information into the water committee report. So, I mean, there's enough crap on the agenda.
The AWC into the water
Yes,
sewer
correct.
trash.
Whatever we heard here, and this information would be reported out at the next board meeting,
Yeah.
if they actually have real humans out.
Yeah, and I can report out that we met today, tomorrow,
Okay.
and reference. Now, do you know, is this gonna be made available to all the trustees, your list?
It can be. I'm sending it to Knudsen. Is
I
it David K at townofpaonia.com? It's pretty
Um,
sure it is.
Mostly, it just seems like it'd be good for the public to have. It's too late for the agenda tomorrow, but it'd be good to get it.
Yeah.
Let's go over it first.
Yes.
It's-
Well, that's
Okay.
why
I got 90% of it done, like
Okay.
right
I know, I
after
can
our
tell.
meeting, and then the last 10% was tedious. So
You just need a spell checker when you work that fast.
Well, yeah, no, I did notice that I had one.
And when you
Okay.
say the last 10%, would that kind of be your observations and thoughts?
No, just like assigning dollar amounts.
Fleshing stuff out.
But yeah, and then it's just really hard to work on these things, and there's so many other things going on.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, it's
like I
hard
see
to
how
concentrate.
valuable it is, and it's just
But it's
Yeah.
essential,
yeah.
right? 'Cause that's
Very
how
much so.
we get the numbers for
Yeah.
making things
And we
happen.
never have had this before, so thank you. A concise, yes.
Yeah, and then it talks about like other tools we can implement. So if Jordan and I just disappear one day, the next person can pick it all up in 3 days. You know, like
And is that your reference on the first page to digital? You say some is the digital ArcGIS data will provide the necessary information to create a robust and accurate asset management plan. Our current ArcGIS data created by SGM and JDS is incomplete. And so let me just keep going, and I'm reading it aloud for those of you who don't have it. There are as-built drawings and engineered site plans that do not exist in any of our existing layers, some of which are crucial to understanding how to move water through our system. And let's see, the part I'm trying to get to is that digital mapping will allow more operators to get up to speed. So is the digital mapping under ArcGIS or is it a subset?
It's
part of it.
it's part of it. Like our GIS would be where all the data lives, but then, for instance, we can use, they have like survey 1, 2, 3, so when we're doing like our maintenance schedule, somebody doesn't have to know Esri very well, they could just pull it up on their phone,
Okay.
do exercise a valve, enter the data in, and it'll feed back to the base map layer that shows whether the maintenance has been complete, or if the valve is stuck, if it needs to be replaced, and then that'll inform the capital improvement plan, because we'll know we have these gate valves that need to be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So
as an example.
And so that would really need to be kept up to date real time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
That's
like the
the
asset
piece.
management plan.
Yeah, that's it.
But it requires a person.
Yeah,
to be constantly making sure they have the latest.
and I don't think it's
information,
really
updating.
complicated to learn. Like
Okay.
setting it up is like tedious, but once it's set up, so long as somebody's just using it, then it stays up to date.
Okay. So that would have to be a responsibility of
In a
someone.
local comment, no, we already have done most of the heavy lifting. In other words,
Yeah.
ArcGIS is just simply the digital encyclopedia Britannica in every page in there. So the bones of the system are really robust right now. I was talking to Jeremiah the other day, and Esri is the format we're using, which is the go-to package for almost all utility management companies in the place. The point being is that we can do some of that updating ourselves. When you get into adding a lot of complicated layers and stuff, we might want to budget a little bit of help for an IT professional in office. But the point being, this thing becomes then the playbook for everything that you do. Everything is in there, maps, even minutes of this meeting could be in there. And right now, that information is fragmented. We know it's in various places. And also, I think we're in desperate need of some standard operating procedures. I don't know, is there any of that stuff done?
Yeah, for the treatment plants, for the wastewater plant, the engineers were suggesting to create SOPs for like how did that pipe, because in the 90s nobody did that.
Sure.
And then so long as like the pipe is bedded properly, then we know we're going to get 30 years out of it versus 15 because there's rocks puncturing it. So things like that, like standard construction standards.
A good example is if both you guys fall or dead and there's a low chlorine alarm and somebody shows up like me in ORC, then is there
We need to print it all out,
a principle that says here's what you do?
There is, yeah, and we just need to print it out, put it in a binder, and put it at the plants.
I'm going through a couple of sanitary surveys now. The state is really hammering hard on SOPs, and I spent the last 2 weeks in Milwaukee writing stuff.
Yeah, and that was my question too, because we were gonna, what am I trying to say? Contract it out, and then it became apparent that Benny could actually create some of these as the ORC.
Yeah, Benny or us.
But we need them done, right? Do we have a
Yeah.
list of what needs to get done?
Well, so things come up like the plant is the pumps are revving high and dropping off, revving high, dropping off, and it's like, oh, we had an electrical surge now the programming strategy is misfiring, right? It's like you don't really write an SOP for that until you've encountered for the first time.
Right, to know you need one.
Yeah. So that's we got the baseline of how to operate, and we have our pump set at 150 gallons a minute, but somehow it's coming out of the tank keeps draining down. We don't know why. We'll go check the strain filter drain. Things like that. It's like we're creating them as things come up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
get it right.
Exactly. There's like troubleshooting SOPs, and then there's like standard just day-to-day operation kind of things. But on that note, I don't mind letting engineers augment our work, but we just need to be clear what we're requesting.
Well, exactly, and that was the issue.
Yeah.
We didn't know
No,
what
exactly.
we were asking for.
That's exactly right.
And then, so there's basic SOPs, and then there's the troubleshooting ones that you just start creating and putting in a 3-ring binder,
Pretty much.
and say, here's what we have to do here. But, so some of that has to be done internally because of your direct knowledge and seeing something happen, as opposed to the higher level SOPs that an engineering company could do,
Right.
if we don't have those. And I don't know what those are. You just have a
all
list.
those can be put in the map. so that you can access.
In the
Having a 3-ring binder in the plant is kind of cool.
Yeah, but then
It's a little-
also to have it on Field Master, you just go to the plant and click that, and then there's the digital copy of it. Yeah, we can do that with our vehicle fleet for for a maintenance schedule. It's not going to move around the map, but it's part
And
of
there are standardized programs at Esri. These are not new things.
Totally.
I mean,
Tons of
they're-
other utilities.
And I think we talked the other day, Esri has a they're a very wealthy company, and they really emphasize education. And I know for a fact they will come over for free and educate anybody that might be interested. Esther Worker is the contact over there, we talked about that. And then, I believe there's some grant money available from Esri, maybe to add some packages that we might want to use. So that's an area for exploration.
So on your resources, tools, and needs, you said ArcGIS Pro's already been approved. Is it 1C?
Yeah, we can all log into it though.
Can you share 1C? Are you okay with that?
I don't know.
Or do you need
I don't know the
2C?
bureaucratic rules around that, so let's just check in with.
Well, I was going to ask.
Yeah, well, I know what you need. Bureaucracy, you can bend it to be like, it will go as far as it'll go. But what do you need? Do you need 2 Cs?
No.
Okay.
We can only use one license to log in and add layer. Just so long as like whoever's logging in there aren't editing layers. Like if they want to add to the layer, just like make their own layer. Make their own layer and add to it so that we can just turn it off if it's.
So can other people use it read only?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
that's cool.
Yep.
Smartphone, you make a good argument for needing a smartphone here.
I don't know why.
No, actually, it's a good argument. Basically, you're using your phone for all this stuff, right? I mean, it is, and you're AT&T, and AT&T sucks, right?
Yep, I got 0 bars right now.
Right.
Oh no, I got full bars right now. Okay. That just changed.
I know, but Suzanne Watson has, hers works, but it won't, she can't talk, she can hear. That's hard on Suzanne.
Actually, that's not a bad deal. I'd probably keep that going.
Would? Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Okay, so,
We're recording here, guys.
you want me to make an appeal to
She says we want to
for
looser
that,
meetings.
Mary?
Yeah.
What we're doing?
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like Corinne was open to it, and then Cindy was like the like, nope, we have a protocol.
Yeah.
So,
I just want to get things done, and that's what's important. Okay, competent new hires. Last time we talked, you thought you needed one warm body.
at least for us.
Yes, for you guys. One warm body for you guys, right?
Yeah.
All right, so here's the status on that. And this will be the 10th budget I've done for the town in my career, so I know what the battles are. They're always new, but there'll be some of the same ones. There's currently 5 people in the front office, and there's the 2 of you. They're pushing paper, you're pushing water and sewer, which is a kind of water. When I talked to Mary on the trail, she wanted to add 2 more people to the front office and to do grants.
Put
which
me
would
in the
make-
front office.
No, they don't need 2 more people, okay? There's 7, I'm just telling you what the battle lines are gonna be. So there's 7 people would then be in the front office, the 2 new ones being grants. When I started on the town council, I had 3 people in the front office, and that was tight. We grew it to 4, and the office runs highly efficiently with 4. 5 is already over what they need to run that office. So,
We're gonna have 5 with a clerk. There'll be 5 when there's a clerk.
yes, well, right now we've got
He's got the
Corinne,
deputy.
Amanda, Samira, Candy.
Candy's
No,
gone.
Candy's not there, and she was not an authorized position.
Oh, she took over, right?
So, just saying.
Don't tell me these things. So anyways, I'll battle you guys for a new person, okay?
Yeah.
Do you got any sort of idea on how much that should, what wages would be?
I don't know. 18.
You said 20 to 25 an hour.
Yeah, budget for that. I mean, like we need somebody who wants to stick around. The cost of living in Paonia is going way up. It's
I
up
agree.
100% since the last 5 years for rentals, easily.
Well, I mean, which I absolutely agree. Just so you know, there is budgeted a public utilities director. which is probably what is
Yeah,
paid for.
my feeling is I would like to grow the director out of these guys.
Right, but I'm just saying there's
Yeah,
budgeted
so-
3 positions under
Right,
public
well,
utilities.
It just, cause you're already on it, you already know what's going on. If you bring in somebody new, it's just gonna screw things up for a while you train them, right? And that's,
I mean, yeah, we're gonna be training for a while, and then, yeah, we're training.
Well, and
We
one
talked
thing.
about training them on more entry level things, as opposed to being the one that responds to an
Yeah.
alarm. They can at least go up there and do our quality control check.
and even if we brought an outside director in, you'd still have to train them.
Well, we need,
Because there's a lot of on the ground stuff.
Yeah,
can I just bring us back to a moment for a second?
Sure.
Several
You
meetings
gotta
ago.
raise your hand, Mary said.
Several meetings ago, the trustees approved a revised RFP for a more on-site ORC.
Yeah.
I created it and gave it to Corinne. I don't know anything, I don't know what's going on. But a reason I bring it up is the trustees approved that to happen, but that doesn't mean we don't need an internal discussion about, first of all, can you even find somebody? But the problem is not having a licensed person here more often, in my opinion. But that's a discussion to have, but I just want you to know, there is a draft
I know there
in
is.
Corinne's computer. And I don't know where it's gone. So I'm being very candid, but I followed through like I said I would.
Yeah.
So,
No, you're good about that.
yeah, but I don't know if it's gonna happen, or if we need to talk about it as trustees more. But the reason I bring it up is it's because there is already an understanding that we need more people working on sewer and water.
Right. We
And,
need a
and, a,
really-
and a third one at a very high salary was budgeted, and nobody's in that position.
No, as long as you guys can get your certifications, then
But are
that's
you,
where I wanna go.
are you having time?
It's on the list.
Okay.
It's on your,
Like we can,
Is that-
the advantage of us being in proximity is like we can get one online course and both sit down and watch instead of
Yeah.
us both buying,
Right.
paying for their online course. There's a lot to learn, so like for us, it's like guidance on like stay focused on these things for this level of certification. I'm not spin off and study for like an A-class certification, right? And just kind of like going back to college and getting your units done
yeah.
in the most efficient manner, and that's what those online courses do. They like just keep it on track.
Okay.
But to back up on the staff is like, you see how important like having like cost estimates and a perspective of what needs to happen is. You see how important that is, and then that means I'm spending time on it, and then we don't have 2 guys to bust out the projects that need to get done.
Right.
A lot of them take at least 2 guys. It's hand me that tool or something like that. So to have like at least an entry level person that can like stay with one of us to keep chipping away at all the projects, then we can do the higher level planning and get all the day-to-days done. So
I have a comment on that. 2 things. One on certification. There's a good, right now you're required a B certification in the plant. There's a very good chance, in my opinion, you're going to be going to an A requirement. I've taken 2 of the tests. I'm a C guy. And the B and the A tests are very difficult. And so just keep that in mind. I think the way the state is moving now is that we have a guy like Benny, where we can find an A or a B certified wastewater and distribution and sewage. What's happening now is they're just simply what we call Rule 100. I can write down on a piece of paper to say I have trained you to do these particular things, and then you're certified to do that. And I think we're going to be stuck in that mode for quite a while, because my sense is it would take you guys 2 to 4 years to get at least the B rating, unless you're really in place.
Yeah.
So that begs the question about what water and sewer really need. The kind of work that you're doing here, this 13-page report, really is an approved A of a water and sewer manager. I mean, you're doing a whole lot more than operations. I mean, the wage salary that we're paying for operators should be divorced from possibly the additional wages being paid for management of water and sewer, right? So I page you've got an RFP going out for a person or somebody that is going to manage this stuff?
It's not anywhere.
Oh, it's not.
It's only on paper.
So-
And in draft.
Kicked out.
That was to try to get somebody to three-quarters time
Yeah.
to be here more
So
often.
the third thing is
But
that,
it's not gone anywhere, so just so you know.
But that's important information that you have in it that can bootstrap the requirements, we'll know what we need.
Yep, I think, well, given how well I did my draft, but yeah.
I mean, the question for Jeremiah and Jordan is whether, I like the idea of finding your managers and training them internally. And somebody's gonna be here and live here, so I would suggest that we, for the next level, whoever you're gonna hire, I had hoped that the public utilities manager that the town hired would have had more experience and background in water and sewer, but
Well,
I'm
they
not sure
didn't,
that's happening.
they haven't hired that person.
Oh, I thought.
No, we have a public works director, but not public utilities, it was separated in the budget.
Oh, I see.
And so Corey is the public works director, and then the public utilities was separated to give Travis that entry, remember, Dave?
The other thing is, who's doing the MORs now, and are you guys doing all that paper?
Yeah, we did net DMR, MORs.
And, you've done lead and copper stuff?
We went out, did lead and copper, I did the CCR. The next thing we have to do is send a letter to all the customers who we tested from, that's the next thing, and then do a certificate of delivery with the state.
Right.
Yeah, we do all that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, you've learned all this on the job, because neither one of you came with any of this,
Yeah.
which is really good, but, you know, you're
Sometimes
just.
I get frustrated with the net DMR, but.
Well, well, I'm sure, but my issue is that you're so busy, I don't know when you train to take the classes to get your B and C. Or B
But
and A.
that's
B and A, I
why
mean.
we need one more busybody to help us, and then it's like, oh wow, we can breathe.
And whether that's never been talked about as to, is the town gonna pay for the materials?
Absolutely.
Right, but it's not been talked about. That's why I'm saying it's wide open. There was no discussion, because it was assumed that, but not that it can't be discussed.
Well,
We did
Corinne was
go there.
okay with doing it, and then she wanted to lock us into a contract, and then we're like, well, as long as there's a clause that we can pay it back and get out of that contract, or something like that, you know?
Well, they
Well, it
did
should
have a
be in the budget.
CDL.
No, it should be, education and training should be in the budget.
Maybe not.
We've already got a okay on the
That would be
online courses.
My humble view.
You guys are good for that, just because it's, it's small change, so it'll fit within.
Right.
what we
Yeah,
have.
and the entire enterprise budget is small change to train us, it's like 5,000 invest in us, and that's gonna go a long way in the long.
But I think we do have to talk about if we invest in you and you leave.
Yeah, totally.
So, because they're doing that now with CDLs, as I understand it. If somebody gets the CDL through the town, they have to pay it back.
Right.
I don't know if that's actually been done, but that's what we've heard, because, yeah, because it's a lot of money to train somebody and have them leave.
Yeah.
And you know that people have to leave, so, and Christina's had her hand up.
Sorry, and we also put a police person through academy, and then they left too, so.
Right.
It's a thing here.
Yeah.
I just was concerned about, Archuleta is supposed to write a plan and have that on file, right, with the CDPHE, or are you guys writing that
Are
plan?
you talking about the delegation plan? Because that's been done.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also about staffing, like Joanne was hired as a helper with Travis, so her position was supposed to be half and half with the police, half with Travis helping him do the data, getting it to the state. And if that's not happening, then, I mean, she's being paid for that too, so
Yeah,
that's just another thing.
One thing that we could have her do is, like, I just followed up with a sales rep for the coatings for the 2 million gallon tanks, and I don't know, she could follow up with him, like things like that,
See the
Like I could just like CC her in the emails, and then I don't know how to utilize
Well,
her help.
okay.
right
If I
now.
could add in, she did not get hired to help you guys.
Oh, I thought
She
that
is
was
doing
just
half,
one
she was budgeted as halftime public safety, halftime utilities. She is now doing public safety and ordinance stuff. So she didn't get hired for what she was budgeted for. And this is, I'm sorry, I'm being very candid, but I'm frustrated because things are not being followed through on, and I think you two could use a halftime data person that you could ask to look things up for you. I don't know. I mean, could you use that's how it was budgeted when they thought Travis was gonna be the public utilities director.
Well, if it was budgeted for that, all it takes is a motion to make it happen.
Right. But, so I'm just saying, you can't start giving her work
Yeah, I got you.
And also, sorry, one more thing, is I agree, I think you guys are great, and if there is no RF, operator that's needed and you're moving up into those positions, then it should be like determined, because there's been so much time spent and people's time wasted in applying for that position, and then suddenly it doesn't exist. And I know you worked so hard on that RFP for the ORC, and if it's not that anymore, then it should be told to the council, you know, from you guys.
And that's
just conveyed totally, like that's done now. Nobody's looking for an ORC.
Yeah, I just don't know the status,
Right.
and if it's, something's been decided, but the motion was made by the trustees.
Yeah.
So it has to be addressed some way, shape, or form. Thank you for doing that.
One thing you said earlier, Phil, is that you could delegate, an ORC can actually delegate all that responsibility
happening.
out.
That's what's
Basically like a
happening.
PE stamp in a drawing.
No,
Can,
it's just a form that.
so we could actually use an ORC and just to simply rubber stamping of, you know, and the other parts that an ORC has to do.
Essentially.
And have those
That's what
guys
we're
be
doing now.
Yeah,
delegated.
that's what we're doing now.
So we could just, I mean, that's a viable process, we can continue it, right?
Okay, it would, for the town to hire a level A certified or B certified ORC, with all the stuff and getting something else to do as an in-town hire would cost you $80,000 to $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And
Plus,
it may be more advantageous to have an ORC that's willing to train these guys.
and then benefits of the.
That's what I said, grow internally and do it that way.
Right, but I think at $1,500 a month, I don't know how much you see that in. You know, I don't know if that could be bumped up to give you guys a little bit more training. Because are you getting anything that you feel like is sending you towards your licensing?
We get a lot on the job, but there's a difference between what you do on the job and what they want you to do on paper.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I have my small systems field guide in my backpack, and you open it up and it has all the math calculations you need to learn. It's like, he's not gonna sit down and be a math tutor with us.
Right.
I don't know, like, is that,
And I don't know, if you had a third person that could spend more time to give you guys time to study, we would be moving, but at this point, I don't know how you guys get certified.
well,
Because
okay.
of the, you know, you have to go
I
through-
feel we need the ArcGIS data and the rev plan, and like throw that clay on the table of like, here's the governing documents that we're following, right? We don't have that, and so we've been spending time on like figuring out what the system needs, what are the outstanding projects that got started that aren't completed, and kind of like
Okay.
fielding all that, and that's where the mental capacity is going right now,
Yes.
you know, to figure that stuff
course.
out. And the only way we can learn that is like, I know, you know, there's apprehension, but for us to talk to Travis and write it all down and then go out and explore and then just write these documents and go, okay, look, we have, you know, we have a roadmap. We don't have a roadmap. We had no roadmap. Nobody like got us up to speed on the system at all. We just dropped in here and we're like, oh shit, there's a lot of stuff that's going on here.
That's so normal.
Yeah, but let's make it not. Let's make it
Deep
obsolete
water.
because
Yeah.
like other municipalities have these tools, and like they just go, here's the login, and somebody goes and goes, oh, okay, great. I'm
And
gonna
they
see
seem
it.
to do, and that's the ArcGIS.
Yeah.
And we got Scott Thomas for the asset management.
Yeah, and he needs a lot from us to make it work. Like the document that I sent you guys, it was like he wants to collect everything and then fine tune it and then start putting it into the rev plan so that it's actually like it's actually a working document that we can use to go get grant money or loans. And yeah.
Can you send Thomas and I the RFP?
No,
No, no.
because Kurt's in Corinne's lap, so I have to say, Corinne, are you gonna give it up so we can work
No,
on it?
come on,
No,
man.
I'm not going to,
I mean-
because I can't until I get, till
What
I.
do you mean you can't?
You get asked questions.
Are you
Yeah,
like chained to
no, I am not gonna do it, because I gave it to Corinne and said, you look, she wanted to look at it
And if
first, so I did.
if she's
So
like,
I'm gonna say, what are you gonna do
circular
with it?
files it, then it's just a
And-
dead end or.
Well, I'm saying I will ask her, but I'm not gonna do
Yeah,
it.
I
I made
suggest
my-
that you follow up with her and say, hey, where is
Yeah.
that? And can you send it to Thomas and Dave?
Yes, that's what I'll do, but I'm gonna
Thanks.
do it.
Who's running running this show, man. That's what
That's a
I'm
good
doing.
question.
We all are together.
Yeah.
That's how
I know we are, we're supposed to be a
that.
team,
I
and
like
team
that.
shares.
Yes, this is good. Let's
What?
get
I can
that.
ask you, what's your skill?
Okay. Equipment major, did you talk to Corey about any of this equipment? 'Cause you guys are
No,
obviously
I
gonna
just-
share. Are
What
you just
page
pipe
are you
dreaming
on?
there?
I'm pipe dreaming there. It's like,
Page you
I'm
on?
gradually working through, you said you wanted to work through this list.
Yeah, what page you
And
on?
so,
The back trailer.
that's the big one.
page 4 of 13.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Corey's brought that up himself because it's
Yeah.
beneficial all around. Potholing,
Yep.
cleaning out our storm drain, and everything that we're contracting out to Southwest Systems and everything.
Yeah.
You don't,
Okay.
And we
you
can get
don't
a
have
little,
one now, the town doesn't own
No.
No,
and we
we-
can get a little add on that, which is the valve turner. So when we go and we exercise the valves as part of our maintenance program, it'll expedite it. And if there's anything seized, we can unseize it. So, and I think 30.
Is that on the list?
30.
Just
Without
without
our
your
valve
valve
tuner. So
tuner.
30 to 50K. I think that's accurate.
That I think is brand new too. I know that Corey just, while working through things, he's found some used ones for as low as 15. That's pretty small size though.
Uh-huh.
Because everything that you blast, you also have to suck up and then it has to be transported off.
And
Well, I see
maybe we
it's
could
on
use
part of
maybe we
that.
could use that for the 2 million tank rehab when we knock everything down to the bottom, we have to suck it out and take it somewhere.
So-
We can use that instead of having, paying, what do we pay, like 600 bucks an hour to,
Sand blasters.
no, for the back trucks.
Oh, yeah, at least 350 an hour.
Yeah.
Well, the back, what they take out of the tank probably has to be properly disposed of.
So, well, one of the lines, so Philip brought this to our attention, is like there's a coat we can put on before we sandblast that'll neutralize the lead. I had that conversation with,
Did you talk to him?
I did, yeah, and I just forwarded you guys an email from him.
Good.
And actually, he's suggesting we do a dry ice sandblast, or a dry ice blast, or something like, I don't know. I have to research it.
Can't really neutralize lead. You can encapsulate it.
Well, you can, there's some new technologies to where you can encapsulate the lead and you don't have to treat it as hazardous waste.
Right. And he
That's
says,
the way- That's the way we did nuclear stuff.
That
Was
would,
just-
that would cut the cost of running that plant by half.
right. And Michael also recommended we hire an NACE inspector to inspect the contractor's work, so they can test how well they've applied it and things like that. So that way, we don't just spray that all in there, knock it down, and then test it and find out it still has
We're
lead.
screwed. That's what happened on the 1 million gallon tank. The hired contractor did all this work and then it fell apart, so
Yeah.
it just wasn't enough. Of these 3 things you have, equipment major, you'd say the back is the most important?
Yeah, you have to go to the bottom of that document for the like rationale for the excavator.
Yeah, I read that part. I'm just,
Yeah, the back track.
I realize that if I show up with, in budget, 3 large items, something's,
Yeah,
right, so I gotta prioritize these, what's the most important?
yeah, the back track for sure.
Let me
Yeah.
just tell the audience, there's 3 things here under equipment: a back trailer with automatic valve turner, 30,000 to 50,000, large excavator, 150 to 300K, and a dump truck, 100,000.
Okay, and I had to give a background because like we, JDS or not JDS, SGM, like they assessed our system. They say we have like to replace everything. It's like $112 million, right? That could be a huge economic boom to the community potentially, right? What was I going to get at? And so I started talking to Dana at DOLA about like, what if we created like a workforce training program here in Paonia? Like they've actually talked about doing like a public works technical training, and they haven't implemented that anywhere.
Nice.
So, do something like that where we're like training up public works people. They come, they live here for like 3 to 5 years. They help us.
If you get the VOTEC building.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have workforce grant money that we're using to do the projects.
There's money for that.
But we have to have the equipment to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So just keep it in house.
Sounds like we need a plan.
But and that's not immediate. That's like let's plan for that in the next 2 to 5 years or something like that. So I don't just want toys. Although excavators are fun.
So,
Dump truck, don't we have a dump truck?
We have a little one.
the next one, you think the large excavator is more important than a dump truck?
Definitely, because we just
Because
make
it-
more trips with the smaller dump truck for sure.
Right. So the reason for the large excavator is that we can't reach to the bottom of where our sewer lines are. Unless, we get down like 12 feet or something.
Right.
And then after that, we just hand you guys shovels.
Yeah, exactly, for the next 8 feet, yeah.
So are you just outsourcing that now, or group?
Yeah, exactly, so it's like, those are big expenses.
And that costs, man, we're dumping money like crazy.
Yeah.
Which brings up the point, do we bid out the excavation contracts? Dick Kendall had it for a while, and then he appears to be gone. What's the process for deciding on an excavator?
It's like 50 to 300K. It costs.
Well, Corinne asked for people to submit their bid sheets so that they could see some competitiveness. I have no idea if anybody did. I think the Kendalls did. I don't know any other.
It's certainly not a streamlined process.
I don't know, right. But we brought up at a meeting that when, I think there needs to be sewer work done up on Doris, there's time to put that out to bid. Not just, a lot of the root stuff has been emergency.
Yeah, like the big sewer project behind over here, any idea what the cost on that?
I saw in the wastewater budget, we had like, what, 141,000 come out of the wastewater budget? I assume it was for that project, so it was at least that.
I think it was almost $250,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if we got the final
What, for
It's-
that?
for this.
It's certainly not cheap for him to maintain all of his equipment, so that's something we have to consider too. If we're gonna get big equipment, can we do
Yeah.
that in-house too? Like,
Right.
I think, I mean, we have some pretty mechanically inclined guys on the crew right now. It's like, just send them to a week class or something, I don't know,
Are we maintaining stuff in-house now, or are we hiring mechanics outside?
No, we usually
Pretty much.
maintain it in-house.
Yeah, unless it's something like an engine rebuild or something, you just
Right.
send it out to the shop to get it done.
So if you guys have a leak now, you call the excavator, are you guys doing the repair, or is the excavator doing the repair?
No, we're
Oh,
done.
yeah, we're doing water line breaks with our mini X, cause it's
So
not.
you're just doing it yourself?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
none
it's
of our
just the
water
sewer.
lines are that deep, right?
Right, exactly. It's just the
Yeah.
sewers that are so deep.
And the rest of the stuff, like the miner and the tools, I don't see any problems with those.
Yeah.
Those are all small change. We can just throw them into the slush, the empty slush stuff.
Yeah, and you see that I started like materials, and that's for the coating the 2 million gallon tank, which I'll have some real numbers really soon from Michael.
Is that on the top of page 5, just the products, lead abatement, top coat?
you're on.
Can you see it?
If you're gonna buy an excavator, what are you gonna do about trench boxes and stuff?
What's that?
What are you gonna do about trench boxes?
That's what we need. I actually forgot to add it, but yeah, we need the metal wall
Yeah.
shores.
Do you remember-
But we also need like CIRSA training.
Right.
Yeah, to do
There's a
it.
lot to it about there.
Remember that meeting?
Egress and safety for the employees,
Yeah.
how they get out if there is a cave and things like that.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
supposed to be getting a trench box.
Oh, really?
That came up at the trustee meeting, remember? And
So-
Rick Stelter talked about it, the metal's on order, but it's just gonna take a while to get it.
Right.
For what?
To have a
Yeah,
trench
but for
box.
what? We don't need it for like what we're doing.
But I think for all this excavation.
Yeah.
To be able to do the sewer, you can't do it without it.
Right.
So
So,
the
so when
towns-
but they go in tandem. We need them both. Otherwise,
Right, but
otherwise
I'm
it's just sitting there.
No, but I'm just saying, we're supposedly gonna get our own trench box.
Yeah, Jeremy, even, when we hire somebody else out to do it, like, Root doesn't have their own, so they rent one.
Oh, they've been
Yeah,
renting them?
yeah,
Oh,
so they
okay.
rent, so basically if we have one, we don't have to rent one. So
That makes sense, okay.
But we'll have to ask at the administrators report tomorrow, what's happening with the trench box.
Well, so this brings up another interesting point. It's like he's coming out with his mini X, and like, why don't we have a guy from Public Works in the mini X helping move stuff around, like, or getting our dump truck involved and cutting down some of the costs.
It's not making sense. You're making too much sense.
Yep. All right.
One of the things that's always choked.
I guess it'll come to liability and insurance, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No.
One of the things that's always choked the budget is that Paonia is a police state. And by that I mean almost half of our general fund goes to police. And this has been that way all along, as long as I've been on it. And it's ironic, but the United States government has the exact same situation. Half of every dollar goes to military. So John Norris and I, back when I was working with him, and we were in some budget problems, his idea was to actually dissolve the police department, do what Crawford did, and kick it to Delta County Sheriff's Office to deal with all our policing. And that was our emergency situation, but it would free up huge amounts of money. I'm just saying that's a nuclear option, and we've always kept that in our back pocket.
That's right.
I like the local police a little more.
We
As a
should
criminal,
have some
I like.
professional. We could have some concealed carry permit training as well as part of the.
No, that's true. Never know,
You get a
you
badge.
shoot a rattlesnake on the job or something.
Or a bear.
All right. So,
Are we through this?
well, I don't know, I just wondered, if number 2 on your, the priority that you all came up with last week was PRVs, and then the 1 million gallon plant back online. I didn't know how much you had addressed that here,
It is.
Jeremiah.
11,000 plus to be determined plumbing repair, page 6.
Okay.
Goes on.
Transfer,
So you're gonna crank up that number, right, Jeremiah?
I think so. I mean, the plumbing doesn't look too bad. As far as I can tell, there's like skid 3, which is the recycle skid, needs to be replumbed. It was separated. I don't know why. But I think what we're gonna run into is like that 12-inch asbestos concrete line. I bet once we start actually using that, it's gonna start cracking on us. So it's like that's part of distribution though. But it's like it doesn't actually service any taps until past the 500,000 gallon tank. And so
Is it the one that comes down the hill?
It stops at the half mil.
Also, it stops, it goes from the main to the half,
yeah.
and then, because we lost that hillside below the half, when the half was leaking. That whole hillside collapsed into the Stewart ditch, and that's part of why we took the 500,000 gallon tank offline. So that line was replaced, the one that came down from the 500,000 is to the town, it's relatively good, it goes down the hillside, so. You might budget that in then, if you think, what kind of shape have you guys looked at any of that line? Is it cracked on you already?
Yeah, it cracked on this one. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
weird.
a heads up right there.
And I don't know, what did that fitting cost us? Like $800?
I think we borrowed that one, but the original one we had that just wasn't the right OD was like $800. So we borrowed one that we have to replace.
I think that's already been, well, it's not ordered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, that's not expensive, and it's asbestos concrete. They don't even let you put it in the ground anymore. So
yeah,
it's not the greatest thing to work on. Luckily, we were able just to patch it, but when you start cutting on it and everything, you gotta keep your head
Right.
Oh, yeah.
separate it. I mean,
Yeah.
you almost need hazmat suits.
Yeah.
What size was that line?
12.
12 inch.
So, sounds to me like the clock plant work has a lot of unknowns in it.
Right.
Right?
And so
So,
we started.
crank up your numbers to give you some space for what you don't know.
Yeah, I didn't add 30% to that one. Yeah, did you have a chance to look at that one? Because like I don't know, like we have some leaks in the airlines, and you know it could be a quick little O-ring, or we might have to replace the whole, you know,
Right. I just don't know.
assembly.
And we don't actually going to get down to hard numbers on this until next month, so
Okay.
you got time.
Yeah, we're gonna really ramp up the work there beginning of August when Browns Hill comes out and helps us with all the communication errors. And Thomas, last time we talked, we were saying that we're still outsourcing a lot of work, and we actually haven't outsourced anything. And this will be the first time we actually outsource some work to an engineering firm.
What do you mean?
When we talk with the 4 of us, me, you, and
Yeah.
these 2, and I just want to presence that we actually haven't been outsourcing any work yet, but we're about
I
to.
mean, like labor?
Like engineering services, techs coming in, like filter tech. They calibrate our analyzers, and the reason that we're doing that is so that one, we have continuity with them. So, you know, Chris from Filter Tech comes out, and we get to learn from him every time, and also that the state sees that we have a third party validating our.
Right, yeah, I think
our-
maybe I was talking about since Travis wasn't here, basically, like everything, all the work between when Travis left and you showed up was all outsourced.
Oh, to like SSG.
Yeah, SSG and all that. I mean, obviously we don't have any engineers on staff, so all the engineering has to be outsourced.
Great, yeah. So I mean, I just present that because we are going to see some more expenditures. It's like we spent like $58,000 for 2 months on SSG, and then all of a sudden we didn't spend anything until what we're looking at now. You know, like very, very little.
So on that question, are you happy with your ability to communicate remotely with the plant, with the treatment plant? Are you able to look at what you need to up there?
So the lab portal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see all your differential pressures, you can see.
We can't see the differential pressure on the filter string,
Right.
and in fact, that's a pain in the butt. What I really want to do is automate that. Like,
Yeah, it should be automated.
It should be automated, but what we're doing right now is we're going to the plant. We're seeing that one of the skids is only running at 150 gallons per minute, but at 60 hertz. So we know it's clogged, and then we have to like manually open up a valve and get the screen filter to clean itself.
Do you get alarms when there's a high pressure situation? Call you in the middle of the night?
Not for that one. It just shuts down the skid that
So
has high resistance. Yeah, and then if something more serious, like we get calls for the chlorine analyzer, the turbidity analyzer being off, wet floor alarm. Over the winter time, twice a week we get a call out because the sensor in the storage tank is misreading and it looks like the tank is drained by half. So we get a call and we have to just go up and wipe it. We just sit there and we watch on
So
the
the
computer.
point being is you need to budget a little more for some SCADA improvements.
Maybe that differential, automating the differential, right? So that it'll, and it's going to be a little complicated because the valve that we need to close off to get the back pressure to wash the filters is a manual valve. So we'd have to install
Solartech could put something together in terms of the budget for that.
Yeah, it'd be whatever, $5,000 or something like that probably to do that. And then the clog plant, I don't remember I don't know what the software is that's already there to access it remotely because we haven't been needing to use it. But we can install a splash top, it'd be no problem to access it.
And they have one.
Then they have something already installed that's not splash top. So, but yeah, Jordan's pulled up the plan right now.
60 hertz.
Yeah, so we need to go up there.
Yeah.
So is it more automated, the clock plant versus the landboard?
They're both pretty automated. When you
They're both going to require manual valve turning to do a backwash, or is it?
No, I don't think so, but we have a round the clock plant to know how good the SCADA actually is.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's a big difference there.
And technically, it's not a backwash. The backwash is automated.
Okay.
Yeah, it's literally like the pre-screen filter.
But that's the one that's clogging up on you, that's a pretty filter.
Yeah. So like right now, that skid is running at. We have it set to 210 gallons per minute. It's only running at 150. So we know we need to just go up there and drain that. And actually, this is why Travis took those out. He was just like, but then it potentially can risk the filters, the membrane filters, So we leave it in and just deal with it.
When the alarm goes off, maybe.
It doesn't go. It doesn't tell. It doesn't set an alarm. It just chokes back and produces a little less water.
So you have to just physically go see what's going on.
Oh, well, we know what's going on. I'll stop there on my way home and open that up, flush and clean it. It should be good until tomorrow morning.
Or we do it again.
So a little bit of an annoyance. Can that be fixed? So you don't.
Well,
keep getting that?
with this, we can basically there's 2 pressure gauges on each of those. You got your inlet and your outlet, and the difference is your differential pressure. And then so we can automate that with an automatic valve and some SCADA programming to say, hey, when we hit this differential, we need to close this valve, open up this drain, and let it do it for like a minute,
And then recalibrate.
yeah.
Set itself.
And which is like pretty standard for filtration systems to have a differential pressure
I
that
have that
automatically.
function on my little gate system, so
Yeah, we have like a sand media filter or something. Yeah, it's like standard.
We just put a differential gauge on it and shift the DP pressure to your SCADA. You're doing the same thing with flow, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
And then, but we have alarms, so, 2 o'clock in the morning, we get a DP alarm.
Right. Yeah, but that's necessary because then your filters aren't doing anything.
Oh,
'cause
you
they're
crush
just-
it, yeah, you can damage the membrane, so you don't want to do that.
Yeah, at least so we have the VFDs, the variable differential or VFD. Help me out here.
Frequency.
That's the one, yeah. VFD. And so that modulates the power and the flow of the pumps. So if it's just like if the water can't go anywhere, the pump will just shut down and you'll get like a high resistance alarm.
So the bottom line is that we're thinking that clock tower plant will be looking at what it's gonna take to bring it online, but there's not probably a plan to bring that thing online for a while.
No, we need to get it online so that we can move forward on the 2 million gallon rehab.
So that's up there on priority.
Yeah, it's up there. One thing that I forgot to mention is just this. There's 2 PRVs in there, and one they function ass backwards. Like basically, like one of the PRVs is supposed to actually create back pressure to then feed the system. That's not how they're supposed to work. And
Well,
I don't
it
know.
might be a PSV, I mean, there's PRVs and there's pressure sustaining valves. And if that valve is designed to create back pressure to run something, then you got a PSV and a PRV.
Maybe you
Same
can look
system.
at it with those because they look identical. They both look like 2 PRVs, and like they're not. They're just like the way Travis said, he's had engineers look at it and they can't figure it out either. So we have these 2 PRVs that are just, I don't know.
Who designed them? Do we have any drawings in that plan?
Yeah, I think it was Westwater who did it, but I don't know if those PRVs were additions. So I'll tease that out. But they're in immaculate condition.
They're big guys. too.
They're huge, yeah. They're like $12,000, $15,000 a piece.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they look great. So that's something we have to tease out. It doesn't seem like a big hurdle. It's just an annoyance that we got to figure out.
So-
More information.
No, it all needs to be talked about and
So
looked at. It's great.
I can't remember, did John Tedder look at those?
He didn't get to the plants.
He might be a guy, because he's an old guy.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, they are clay valve.
And
We have a Ross valve on the
He
other.
comes over for no charge. We'll bait him.
Are you sure? Because it said 1,200. 1,200 a day to come out, plus
Oh, that was-
plus stays and travel and.
Well, that wouldn't be him, that's his service guys.
Oh, okay.
But he loves to come over here and talk about old stuff.
And is that at the 1 million? Those weird valves?
Yeah.
Thanks. Could be PSVs.
So in terms of how much water are we spilling off of the 2 million? How much water are we spilling? I mean, are we getting enough feed from the springs? Are we spilling an adequate amount of water?
Yeah. We actually had a so we have the Lake Fork. So German Creek was down maybe 250, 300 gallons, which isn't enough to keep the tank full. So we went and we opened up the Beaver Dam Ditch diversion, which is where we share water with Rover,
Yeah.
and this is from our Lake Fork source. And we opened that up. We had plenty of water for a month, and then we were dropping down, so we went up and we closed off Rover's valve, and then we had too much water. We were like 650 gallons a minute, so we went back up and cracked up the Rovers a little bit. So we're trying to hit that equilibrium.
Trying to hit the bumper.
And because we don't have flow meters up there, I don't know if we're taking part in our allotment, but we were giving them up until just now all of our
water.
Yeah. So it's like,
Yeah.
Lady was out.
yeah.
The reason why I'm saying that is that my weather station's showing that we're half normal rainfall. And in fact, this year we may qualify as a desert, which is less than 10 inches of rain. It'll be the first, well, that happened in 2003, it also happened in 2018. So I'm just concerned about us having adequate water to get through the year, because I was backpacking and the springs are dropping on Gunnison. They're a lot lower than they should be this time of year. It's up there. So.
We have a 180 gallons a minute going to the clock plant, of which half of that from the Reynolds Springs we can take back to Lamborn, and we're just letting it run through there for KDS's data.
Yeah.
So half of that can go back up to Lamborn?
Yeah, like another 98 gallons a minute.
So you're feeling it's cool for now?
I think so.
Yeah. What's the tank full right now? We're probably spilling right now.
No, we're
Or it's
not
peak
quite
use
spilling.
right now, so we're dropping a little bit.
We're at,
31.25 feet, and it starts to spill over at like 31.31 feet. So.
So, the flow meters on the springs, that's something that I budgeted for 3 times back in the early 2000s and just could not get to happen. But I do recognize how important that is. I've tried it 3 times, I'm willing to go for a 4th time. It'll be a question of all this other stuff, how much can I fight for in the budget? And I guess I'll put that out. You didn't have any numbers on that.
I did.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, I budgeted for 1,200 each, but then I wasn't thinking about how we're gonna power them.
About 30,000 you're looking at.
And then
But they're solar, right? You're gonna
well, why don't we do like an inline like hydro like
little micro hydro.
yeah, a little micro hydro thing. That's probably spendy but really cool. And then also what I didn't mention in here is that was for like 15 inline transducer flow meters. The thought is a bunch of springs like they branch and then we
Yeah, that's what I was thinking where they come together. But the information, they branch, but you're going to lose the spill at the spring, right? Aren't you?
Well, the spill is tracked by Luke. I always butcher his last name, the water commissioner.
Right.
He uses partial flumes to measure that, but
it's not real time data because he's only up there.
Totally, and that's another thing that I didn't account for is like you were talking about the relay that you set up between clock and here,
Yeah.
and maybe we need to set up a handful of relay towers so that we do have real time data. Or do we just go up there and just grab a radio?
In winter, that was kind of a little hard.
What's that?
In winter, going up there.
Oh, I know, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Damn near.
Along a pair of skis.
Yeah, and yeah.
Well, my experience with doing remote flow meters is difficult because it's 2 things. You're dealing with a non-pressurized system. Basically, you're collecting water, gravity, and a lot of flow meters will simply not.
You need a full
paddle
line.
meters will not simply read, but it just simply won't turn. So at the end of the day, if you're going to get some data, you have to get the more sophisticated mag meters and a lot of that stuff that are expensive. Second thing is, what do you do in the winter? What a lot of, I don't quite understand, the springs come together and there must be a measuring box there by partial flume somewhere, right? That gathers all these up. Probably a better way to do that would be to put a remote read in the partial flume box, at least as a starter.
Like an ultrasonic meter.
Yeah, an ultrasonic, and you can also take those out in the winter. Because at the end of the day, the water rights up there are really determined by what's coming through the partial flume, how much Luke's turning, and he only goes up there, I think, once a week, right? Once a month.
Yeah.
So.
And I guess unless we're seeing low flows and he needs to
And
keep.
this thing, when Travis was around, this thing with Rover was really kind of magic, I mean, some days a little would go here and some days a little would go there, and it was always a mystery to me how that was actually managed. And I think, good management up there would probably, at the partial flume level, would probably benefit us more right now than 10 or 15 remote spring sites that may not work. It's worth studying. And we looked at the cost at about $3,000 a pop to put one on Stecker. We just looked at that with the relay. So what I'm saying is it's going to be more complicated and expensive than you think it is.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback. I've been talking with this guy, Brian from Mountain Peaks Controllers, and he's helping Crawford out with some of their, Brian?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I have some comments about him, and I'll tell you.
Well, so let me get the free information out of him first.
Right.
Yeah, really.
Because he's willing to just like talk shop with us.
Sure.
Yeah. So.
Well, you have an Allen Bradley controller. You have an Allen Bradley controller, do you?
You have an AV
You controller in the clock line.
In the clock line.
So you're sort of stuck with Brian. Well, we can talk about
Oh,
this.
really? Yeah, because he is savvy with the Hall system. That's another reason I want to talk to him.
Very smart, bad service, that's all I'll say.
Okay. So disregard that estimate for the Springs.
No, I just,
Well,
it's important, I think, if you can, get new numbers on that,
Yeah.
I'll put it in the budget. Otherwise, I'll make up some large number with the budget. and see if I can make it.
Well, see, some of this could get from grants. I think there's a possibility of being able to
Right.
get spring meters through grants, especially if it's, I mean, how much money are we talking?
We don't know, quite know
I
yet.
mean,
30K.
It could be,
Yeah.
say 50K maybe.
how many partial teams are up there? Have you ever been with?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, the partials are actually, while it's running through the partials, it is not running into our pipes.
Oh, I see.
He has to divert it through there and get his reading from it.
And then it goes back to the pipe.
Yeah.
That's
So he shuts your pipe down, takes a reading, and turns the pipe back.
Yeah.
Well, that's a problem.
And
Well-
those flumes are probably not level necessarily anymore either. Some of them have growth on them. It's kind of an outdated system.
We talked about that, 4 to 6 inch collection pipes.
The pipes,
Yeah.
they're probably 6 to 8.
I mean, it might be that we could get an in on it, so we just need to talk about that.
Yeah. It's just, while I'm thinking about it, like our oldest decree, the old original Reynolds, there's a ton of overflow. But
That was spring runoff.
yeah, we'll have to go back up and look and see, because then we can ascertain if it's clogged pipes or just literally spring runoff. So we just have to go back up there and take a look. That's all.
Okay. Anything else?
You got the recap, you got the 2 million on your sheet too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Can you
looked
talk
at
about that?
800K.
Question mark. I've literally heard 650. I've heard 800. I've heard 1.2. And the truth is that that's a moving target because of inflation. Like,
Everything is.
so like we need to order our lining at ASAP and just store it or something. Like commit
Well,
to it.
that lining is manufactured in the United States, the timber, that guy you talked to.
Yeah, it's international.
So we're not subject to the Chinese inflation.
How's it come? How is it delivered?
One
Is it
gallon
rolls?
buckets. It's buckets. of
It's
paint.
buckets of paint.
Yeah.
For the liner?
Yeah.
For the food grade liner, it's like a bucket of paint.
Ooh, okay, you're talking food grade liner.
Because we
I
have to
was-
line it with a food grade lining.
Oh, it's a spray on the product. Are you talking about the?
2 million, when after the lead's removed, then the lining has to.
This is where the conversation, because I just been going off of what the
Okay.
salespeople recommend.
What do they call it?
I would imagine that it's.
Because it's
It's
a
all the
food.
lining, but it's a spray on top.
Okay.
So, we have to, what they do is they paint the stuff on, and they come in with their sandblast and stuff, and they sandblast it down and weld up anything that's in there. Then they come back in, put a primer on, and then they put the second layer coat, which is just some kind of magic stuff they use. It has about, I think, a 30 or 40.
And it's done.
That's done.
No.
We also need
No.
to paint the outside of the tank.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What I got here from Michael was there's a primer. It's a hydro zinc, and they call it a sacrificial corrosion, and it's yeah.
Right.
And then there's a strip coat, an intermediate coat, and a top coat.
So there's actually 3.
And that's not even the pre-treatment to do the dry ice blasting and get the lead out of there. So
Yowza.
yeah, but Michael's turned out to be an amazing resource. I've already gotten calls from a contractor to do some of that
Yeah,
work. So
he's the best guy. He's the best guy I talked to.
and I did forward his email to all you guys. So
And he doesn't do applications, he just sells.
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and then there's I can't tell if there's 3 options for the exterior or 3 coats. It looks like three different options.
Oh, not 3 coats, maybe. That's good news, right?
Yeah, there. In that write-up, I did mention that from the tank inspection report, there was areas of corrosion, and this is only talking about recoating and not actually addressing the corrosion. Like like at the like towards the bottom, there was some corrosion, and then
Of the tank itself.
of the tank itself. Yeah.
See, so it's gonna have.
So maybe it needs to be re-welded. I don't know.
Treatment or
I
something.
guess when we drain it, we get in there. We just have to have contingencies lined up and
Yeah.
like contractors ready to go. I guess so we.
We have
stay
a
on it.
timeline on that?
Next spring,
Do we have to-
that's what we're targeting for.
Yes.
Everything's gotta come together and happen, but
To
we
get
gotta
the
do it during
grants.
my walk.
And they'll take that whole new grants in place.
Yeah, right, that's what we're rolling now,
Yeah.
and that stuff. And as you pointed out, any sort of lead grants or generally.
Yeah, there might be some out there. They're mostly for lead service lines now.
Yeah, the BIL or whatever it's called, the IIJA
Yeah,
is
we
gonna help.
can get
with
some money
that.
for our pigtails.
That's it.
So I found out there's really just 2 blocks that have lead service line pigtails.
Just 2 blocks?
Just 2 blocks.
Really?
According to Travis. So and the rules, even with the lead and copper rule revisions, it's like you only have to replace them if you dig that area up.
Only when you need to.
Yeah, which is like,
Huh.
I don't want any shit in my water, Just let's go take care of it, let's budget for that.
So is Michael, is he gonna come over here and look things over?
He's willing to.
Yeah,
If we could coordinate some people to talk with him, and I'm only a facet of the the questions that we have to ask.
but it's, Dave and I would be, I'm offering your services, but we'd be, good to go talk to this guy, okay?
Yeah. We can do that.
Fine with that.
Let's figure out a time.
That's it.
I love talking.
Hey, Travis.
It's my job, man. So wastewater treatment plant, you're looking at $50,000.
The big question mark is the patching up the lining. We were gonna do it. To be honest, I don't want to do it. I don't want to huff those fumes. I don't want to do it. Like, I'd rather outsource that, but then that's spending.
Yeah, and that's what you gotta kind of do, you gotta triage your stuff and determine what you can do and wanna do, what you don't wanna do.
Certainly don't want to do that. I don't want to deal with fumes.
Yeah.
So what do you have to patch up? Is it off?
There's just little tears around
The liner?
The liner. And
All 4 pumps?
I think the polishing pond's in pretty good shape. There's a few ponds. I think the polishing pond's in pretty good shape, but it looks like they've done repairs to that liner before. Something weird. I don't know what it is.
So it has to all be drained and cleaned up?
No,
all the sludge?
no, just
Necessarily.
Really?
it's not like, I mean, if we had tears at the bottom, we'd have bigger problems.
So you know.
Bigger compliance problems.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like where the liner's exposed to the sun.
Yeah,
out of
it's
the
all
water,
kind of
around
plastic,
edges.
it's curved.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I threw out the big number because, just preliminary conversations with groups who do that. What was it, J&M?
H&H line.
H&H Land. They just said that's gonna be spendy. That's all they said. So.
But if we are gonna get a sludge judge and we're gonna determine how much sludge we have, which we think pond 1 probably has a problem with sludge, then it might be worth it to drain it down and establish if there is any problems underneath the water line that we just can't see.
Can you dredge the sludge once it's empty?
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the key.
But
gotta
you can
empty
do it without it being empty too, but it depends on the way you want.
Yeah, but you can.
How do you get
kill
the
people
sludge
with
out of
what's
there
down
without hurting the line?
Look for
Yes.
leaks.
Like a dredge.
Yeah.
A dredge, or otherwise a really skilled operator, and I don't want that liability.
Yeah. And you got the biological treatment in here for the sludge.
Yeah, so they had a BOGO deal going, so that could be 2 treatments for $5K.
Yeah.
And it
What's the shelf life?
the shelf life, I don't know. Like we could probably say, hey, we'll commit to buying this and this the first treatment and this and the second one later. It's something that I haven't had a whole lot of chance to explore further, but I'm just talking to one of their sales reps, and it looked like it was working for the ammonia removal in the cold time of the year, and allegedly it eats sludge too, but that's just the sales rep telling me that. So.
Yeah, and how much it would eat.
Yeah, they say like up to 30% of it. And
But you don't know yet how much you have because you don't have a sludge judge. How much is a sludge judge?
$300, but it's disgusting. You gotta go out there.
Is there a better way? And put it down there like you're sampling a soil or something?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, another one I don't want to do either, but I'll do it. I'll do that. The huffing the fumes, I don't want. I'm just like,
So you think the 30% fudge factor in there is cool on the wastewater plant? Is that enough margin for you to
What do
wiggle?
you think? Because that one was
That's on page 11.
yeah, that one's a real.
No, that's the hard part. Actually, guessing the unknown is, I've done it a lot in my life. That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, like we okay. So here's another. So the large aerator that appears to be wobbling, I put down 1,500, hoping like a tech could just repair it. It could be total. The shaft could be totally jacked up, and we need to spend $15,000 on a new air. And that's just the thing that spins and makes the bubbles. That's not the motor. The motor seems to be running okay. So
What about the other areas? I mean, should we?
they all
look
pretty
cool.
much seem to be working, except we have one aerator offline because we had a single phasing issue.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah,
before.
and
That's
I don't know how it
electrician.
happened. I don't know. How, yeah, that's so we got $1,000 budgeted for an electrician, but in truth, that's a day's worth of work, and then hopefully they can troubleshoot that issue very quickly, and then move on to other things that we could use them for.
We don't have a spare aerator,
No spares.
No, we found the one that we thought was lost, but we found that.
but it didn't end up on eBay.
No. You wouldn't know, he loves eBay.
That's where it came from.
So is it working? So is it a usable spare?
We found it, it's been, we haven't stuck it on a motor yet though.
Yeah,
So
okay,
that's the next step for that one.
So you could use that one if there's like a shaft in the one that's.
Yeah, but then we would still be down one. That other one, maybe there's just stuff caught up in it. It's very grindy when you try to spin it.
We got it on the shore. We're gonna pull it apart, take a look at it. What I'm not clear on is if those aerators are the same size. Like the motors are different sizes. The couplers, they could be the same. So we could like throw a smaller aerator on a 20 horsepower pump. And
Yeah.
I'll call the tech. I'll call the reps and see if that's okay. Make sure not causing more damage.
Boy,
Okay.
never ends.
And then my notes here. I wrote out that like the EPA has got new regulations. Eventually, the state of Colorado is going to implement them. We don't know if it's going to affect our small town, so we need to start thinking about budgeting for millions of dollars to upgrade that plant.
Yeah.
Potentially.
It's not that old either. It's 20 years. So like we put it in my first term, so it's not that old.
Do you know what's going to need to be done? I mean, is it going to continue to be a lagoon?
Hopefully, like there's a lot of small towns like ours, like working with people who are trying to salvage these lagoon systems. The state wants to push everybody towards a mechanical plant, but
Energy intensive.
yeah, super, and then you gotta have like techs or
Super
get paid
operator.
60K each or something like that. But the CDPHE, when they did the wastewater inspection with us, they called out metals are going to be hard to deal with, phosphorus, and then we're dealing with the nitrogen. Like we could just use micro bubbles to deal with the nitrogen, but the phosphorus and metals are going to be the tough thing. But there's cool stuff out there. Like there's like you can coagulate those metals with electrolysis. Like there's really cool technology out there, and
I think when I was at the thing, I sent you a brochure from Save the Lagoon.
yeah, a lot of it was for ammonia removal.
Ammonia removal.
Yeah, and actually SGM, they did a report for us, and they actually suggested some of the things that were in those brochures, like a screen of microbubbles, so. But yeah, I didn't see anything about phosphorus. Typically, it's like that's like an anaerobic biological process. It's like a chamber you're in.
What's the capacity of that plant right now? Like
450,
Like, I mean-
495,000 gallons a day, and we're using 100. We're in the in and out is about 140,000 gallons a day.
Yeah, the war on that plant, because I fought against it for 3 reasons. It's on the wrong side of the river, it's too far downstream, and it's way too big for what we needed. But a previous council had dreams of houses everywhere, and that's why that
Around the
plant was-
beautiful lagoon.
Yeah. The big news floating around.
I think Big East is doing it.
Yeah, Big B's is doing
Are they
it.
on septic or sewer?
I don't know.
That's what I-
B's is on.
That's him.
I was wondering if Big B's is on septic or sewer.
I think they're on septic.
They're on septic.
We don't run sewer. We don't have anybody connected. Farnsworth was going to be the end of the line because he was going to put in a RV park. And as part of our negotiating with him, he wanted sewer taps, and that was going to be the last connection point. There's a problem with RV parks, I guess you guys know that, is that they're real toxic, what's in those tanks in RV parks, and it'll screw up the biology in the sewer pond, so we didn't want them on.
But, and can I ask a question? Like, what is the capacity? Like, how many houses are on that sewer system?
There are some standard numbers. Do you remember what Dana said, or was it James who was telling us? It's like per single family household, whatever, 50 gallons a day. It's something to that effect.
So it can accommodate a lot more growth.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
It's
Okay.
way oversized.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were having some INI, like after that big rainstorm, we saw the inflow.
Saw a spike?
Huge spike.
Yeah.
And then also our TSS and total suspended solids are pretty high in the first lagoon, but it very well could just be algae blooms. But that would be an indicator of INI, like
Yeah.
So
We did an I-9 project when we put that plan in, but we probably have a whole bunch of other places that it's leaking in.
yeah, that stands for infiltration and inflow and infiltration.
So coming through the storm vents, coming down, getting into our really old clay pipes.
Which 3rd Street apparently has.
So we're treating groundwater, lots of it.
Yeah.
Well, so the cool thing about that is like we really don't use that much chemical through there. It's like
Oh, because it's so diluted?
I don't know, but what we're putting
That's-
out is clean.
Yeah.
If I showed you a glass in it, you would think that it was.
Yeah, ionized in the dilution factor.
Yeah, no,
It's
exactly.
possible. But of course, pond one does look horrible.
And that's because 2 aerators are offline
Pond
probably,
two,
so the nitrogen eating bacteria is not thriving, instead the algae is eating the nutrients. Which when that algae starts to die, then we're gonna have like biochemical oxygen demand or potential issues.
Why aren't the aerators going?
One has a wobble,
Oh,
so we need to address that, and the other one we had a single phase. Basically, it's like 3 phases. Like there's 3 lines of power going to the motor, and all the energy is in one line instead of distributed over the 3. And how that happens, apparently anytime DMEA shuts off our power, it could single phase everything, and so I don't know what caused it, and it could be a breaker that screwed up. It's a question for an electrician.
do you have anybody hired to get out there?
Yeah, we're not on a schedule though, so I might have to find somebody else.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
So, like, those SOPs, like, you guys are a wealth of information. You have told us more, and we have learned more than in a long time. So, are you also writing down all that stuff, like
The single
all
phase
your
engineering?
connections, you know, the people and what they do, and like,
So that's a really good point. Like what I wanted to do with the ArcGIS is like all of our vendors, let's just map that out. So
Right.
somebody who has no freaking idea can just zoom
Right.
back and like, oh, we go to Grand Junction for this stuff, you know,
Yeah.
there's that. And so it's kind of, I don't know if you guys ever played the game Sims.
No.
City or something. It's like totally like a video game. Like everything could be there. Like you could augment everything there, you know. No, I haven't really been. It's just like it's in my emails, and really that's how I found. The way I found most of these people is going through Travis's emails, you know. But yeah, we need a directory. That's a good
Yeah.
point. Yeah,
Vendors
a vendors list, yeah, an engineering list. So I'll put that in some notes of a thing to capture.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, too.
Hey, gal.
I never did that before.
Ron
Dave
Rao,
had
I
his
thought
own.
Ron Rao was gonna kill me with the gavel just before.
can I ask one more quick question? Any of those large, heavy equipment, can that go through the infrastructure grant at all?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of each
Doesn't
grant
sound
has
like
its
it.
own
Yeah.
limitations as to what you can do with it. So,
Okay.
From what I've learned, I don't think so.
but yeah, we've done more granting than money.
Yeah, I
Yep.
did set in on some of that, just seminar, and yeah, there's, yeah.
I know you guys want to leave, but I gotta say
Oh,
one
yes,
thing. Like,
sure.
one of the outstanding projects was a chemical storage building that SGM designed for us.
Oh, that's if we have to do the copper lead.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if like the
That's
whole
what it was
plan
for.
Well, it was part of that.
That's what we were told.
So, but for what, to store the phosphates?
To
That would be-
store the chemicals that were gonna be needed if we exceeded the copper lead again.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I was gonna
Yeah.
ask about that, what the status of the copper and lead testing.
Oh, they're great. Yeah, they look
I
like.
mean, we're not on enforcement order yet, but we may be.
No, we're not. Like we haven't even. The EPA is going to change the action level. to
Yeah, they're
lower.
they're 1.3.
So, I mean, I can send you the results, but we're looking good. And but that might change next time we do that.
Then they put us on an order to write an OCCP, which is the corrosion control plan.
Yeah, well, we
And that's
haven't.
been- that's been-
SGM completed that, and then so if we do hit the head, right? Well, it hasn't been submitted because we haven't hit another action.
Haven't needed it, right? It's
Yeah.
the in case
Yeah.
engineering
Yeah,
drawing, right?
but then like, should we get ahead of so let's assume next time we do lead and copper sampling, the state has, and they're gonna do this, they're gonna change all of our testing sites. We hit that action level. I don't know how much time we have
Well,
to
I've been through
implement.
two of these now, and you'll have
Okay.
you'll have to write the report, and they'll look at your raw water quality and determine whether you have to inject phosphates into your system or use an acid-based solution, which would be, caustic soda or some pH enhancer. The point of all that is that if they decide that the town has to do corrosion control, you're gonna have a whole another layer of tanks and chemicals and pumps and you're gonna have to have them at both plants.
Right.
So
Yeah.
really, your lead and copper testing really has to be tightened up, and most of that is training your homeowners. I assume your homeowners are taking the tests right now.
Yeah.
I have a little sheet that I tell them, because where we got in trouble was some old people would go to bed at 7 o'clock and leave all that water to soak all night. They get up in the morning and you got a 15-hour soak in your system. And this is CP, she's not listening here, but in some cases, I tell them to let the water soak no more than 6 or 8 hours. Get up at 6 o'clock and take your sample, and also let the cold and take it out of the bathroom. Cold water, no mixing deals. The problem we've had with copper is mostly you're asking homeowners to do a sophisticated test, and they screw it up sometimes. So we just don't want to get in that reaction.
Why are they going with copper? I mean, copper's not toxic except.
I have argued with them blue in the face about copper. I mean, the only thing you get from high copper is occasional little diarrhea, unless you have Wilson's disease and have a bad odor. But the trouble is,
Are they using it for an indicator?
It's an indicator. Yeah, it's a corrosion indicator.
it's a corrosion indicator.
Oh, okay.
So are you staying up to speed on the lead and copper rule revisions? Because I swear I saw something in
You
there
did?
that they were gonna start making towns implement the corrosion control program.
Well, what they're doing is just changing the metrics and what your action level is, what your action level is. Right now.
And I just bring it up because we're not budgeting for it. There's no contingency budget
No,
in the
we don't.
event.
Well, you will have it would be probably 2 years before you have to implement it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right here. Optimum corrosion control install. Due date June 24th, 2023. So
less than a year away.
So maybe we have to have that system installed and ready to go in the event that we have an action level. We'll just call
Well,
and
no,
find out.
all you have to have is the report done, and that's complete, you're saying, right? They've already, if you look in that report, it'll tell you what you have to do. And most towns are using phosphate as an injection point. And all you're doing is, it's very strange that even though the homeowner has a problem, the state is saying it's a city or utility problem to make sure you don't have corrosive water. It's kind of backwards.
Well, it's
How much should sample at the meter, not at the.
Well, that's a household. So here's another little.
It's because of Flint.
Here's another little known fact, and that is that if a homeowner has a water softener installed, they're automatically kicked out of the lead and copper things. So if you have a home that's, you didn't even hear this from me, if you have some homes that are in your test set that are fairly high in copper, or lead and copper, for the cost of $800 to install a water softener, they're automatically kicked out of the lead copper rule.
Is it because it reduces it?
Yeah, because usually water softening is
Yeah.
on exchange, it usually
Yeah,
is.
it gets rid of it.
Takes off everything.
So-
Because that's.
Replaces it with salt.
And the other thing is, I think they're making you inventory, I think part of the new rules, you have to inventory 80% of all your loans, or something. I mean, right now, you go through and look at all homes, 1983 to 1987, those are the
Yeah.
last year's copper was in the thing. So those become, and then you have to survey all those homes and find out whether they're tier 1, tier 2.
So Travis did that for us
Yeah.
before he left. Yeah, and what he did is he went to the Delta County, like some directory and found all the homes that were built in that timeline.
Good property.
And yeah, so at least he did that survey because I was like, damn it, not enough.
That's pretty good, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 139 tier 1 sites.
How old's tier 1?
Tier 1 means it's the most vulnerable site, so homes were built 83 to 87.
Yeah.
Because mine was built in '06 and it's all on iron.
You're still in galvanized?
Yeah.
That explains a lot of your behavior.
That stuff's great. It takes 600 PSI and it'll last forever.
Anyway, we won't have to do that for probably 2 years if we have to install it.
Have you found when working with the state that if you're showing progress towards the goal, they cut you some slack?
They do.
So they did that to us before, as long as we are honestly proceeding in a forward direction.
Yeah, that's true, by and large. But they're a little, I manage little companies, they're a little harder on big companies. How many tax we have?
1,500.
1,500?
Sounds right.
Yeah, like
With all the extra systems.
Extra systems would have put that.
But the two things they're hot on now are lead and copper and backflow prevention. They've gone crazy over cross connections.
That's something that I wanted to. So ordinances and enforcement. There's like a lot of out of town users using domestic for their sprinklers. That's actually. I don't really know because I haven't seen the agreements for all those consecutive water systems and what's okay, but also we know that people have added ADUs and extended their lines and things like that. And it's like, we at least need them to pay their fair share, you know, if people are doing that, but also like to like the longevity of this town and the sustainability, you know, like, yeah, just managing that water resource. What do we do? Like, I personally don't want to come in people's crosshairs about it, but it's something that like, at least there needs to be a conversation around and like codifying an ordinance around it. Like, no, it's actually not okay. You're breaking the rules.
Yeah, we've been through this before, and the council has wrote those ordinances so that every water tap sold after that date, which would be the early 2000s, they were bound to the town ordinances. Right now, the ones that are before that, they're in the county and we have no jurisdiction over it. There's nothing we can do to it, really. We have gone out with the sheriff before and a public works person and cut pipes, dug it up, made them dig it up, cut the pipe, seal it if there was an ADU on the line. I found that really hard to manage. Not only that, it's not real friendly. One of the ways to solve that problem is that out of town, if you add like 3 houses on a single line, the usage is going to go way up. So what you do is you just simply make them pay through the nose.
Yeah, exponential water
Just go
tiers.
way up. And that's what we used. I don't know. I have to look at what the current rates because we are going to revisit our water rates and make adjustments. You've already suggested we need to bring it up.
I take care of German Creek West, which has got 27 towns. We buy water from the town, and we have a meeting, finally had a meeting for some 3 years. But, so we tried to find the agreement that the German Creek West Water Association has with the town of Paonia. We couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah, in many cases
that's item number 1.
there is no agreement.
Well,
Is this?
Item number 2 is
Town.
that we were relying fairly heavily on solar water on the accuracy of the meters.
Mhm.
And
Who knows how?
the meter at German Creek has not been calibrated or checked in more than 5 years.
So that's another thing that needs to get done.
And I'm not sure.
Is this the water company that Dirk set up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was a.
But you're talking about the German Creek subdivision.
Yeah, German Creek West.
We used to read all those, and I got Dirk to consolidate that into a
Like
company.
I was looking.
Yeah, it is.
Last.
Yeah, no, but it wasn't. So that, if you're looking for an agreement, talk to Dirk. You know him, he works for that company. He owns now. He doesn't like it.
But that was what Barb Peck was bringing up last meeting.
But
She
it
was
might
really
be
upset
in
that
town's
things are being
interest to
unmetered and.
relook at all those contracts for purchase for outside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that also reminds me, like, as you brought up, master meters, like, not being calibrated, right? Was codified, that needs to be done annually.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's, and I don't know, backflow prevention advice on any of the consecutive systems, so we don't have to worry about it. So we need like an ag producer, whenever they get pesticides in the lines, and like flow and pressure gauge meters, so that we can real time like see when the consecutive water system
Your
is
backflow rules don't apply to single family households, so they only
Well,
apply to commercial taps.
But he's talking about, you're talking about
Consecutive
doing
system.
the company meter.
Yeah, do it right there. So I mean, in our ordinance it says, we don't enforce on single family homes, but we do enforce like 5 or more single family homes that are sharing a line.
Yeah, that's a tricky area, whether they're multifamily housing, because that's a tier 2 structure.
You just don't want enforcement on your system.
Yeah, and I think the government is
So you think we
And
need
is-
backflow in all the companies?
I mean, it's just a safe. It's just, I don't know. Like it depends. Let's go look at the system and see if they're if they got like farmers out there who are spraying pesticides. Because the worst thing that could happen is somebody leaves their hose in a pesticide tank, and then we have a back second and it all goes back in. So yeah, if it's just like some residences, it's probably fine. But if they're farmers,
But we'd be looking at the companies, we'd do all the companies.
Yeah, you don't want to kick that dog too hard right now, I don't think, because.
I know I'm trying to think how.
Yeah, because, you're gonna end up with a backflow, double check backflow prevention device, or RPZ, about $3,000 to $4,000 a pop, and then they have to be
But most of
certified every year.
Yeah. But the inspection's like $115 per
If you can
device.
find an inspector.
We just did it. We got
High Barker.
Who did it?
High Barker.
By Barton.
They're out of
Grand Junction.
Right.
No, they're at Grand Junction.
We could charge you $150.
Per device, which then we just push on to the user.
What's his name, Waschke, and Hospice is certified to do it too. I think he's charging $100.
Have you calibrated any of those meters at all? Have you looked at the calibration of them?
I don't
I'm just
know.
curious,
I don't know.
because meters, right, the numbers fall down over time, right? I mean,
Right, the gears get rusty. They don't
Yeah.
spin so well.
so they actually estimate.
And that could be part of our loss that we're seeing.
Right, right.
Like that 40%, and that was.
It's
It's
just not.
extremely difficult to calibrate a turbine meter.
That's what I was
And
thinking.
because you really have to take it out and bench test it. What most utilities do is they just have a bunch of rebuilds,
And
and
they
you
just swap them out.
You just swap them out, you just put a new meter in the pit, but some of the pits are hard to get to. The meter at German Creek's down the bottom of this hole, you'd have to go back on them and dig it up. So that's what I'm saying. I would I'd look at your commercials, but we got a lot of fish to fry rather than deal with that.
Yeah, fair enough. I think this is part of the those consecutive water system users who want to have a say in the water in like this water district. It's like it's got to go both ways. Like we need things from them if they want things from us, and so like we gotta like harmonize and equilibrize.
The best way to get cooperation is raise a raise.
It's the best way to get a meeting together, I'll tell you that.
A lot of happy people.
Are there any actions